Ideas take shape, thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. One of his advocacy, mindset meets money, simple strategies for real wealth. No other than Mr. Victor Idoko. Welcome, Mr. Victor on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Thank you very much for having me on the show, Daniel. So, Victor Idoko, I'm a wealth planner, wealth strategist, and I help people make sense of finance, help them build wealth for the lives they want.
Yes, indeed. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today, let's talk about designed to unpack the psychology, simplicity, and practical application of these fundamental wealth strategies. Our topic suggests that these strategies are the basic yet overlooked is the primary reason for this oversight psychological. Are we handwired to seek complex, secret solutions or over simple discipline habits?
Yeah. So generally, I think people like simple things, but it becomes simple only when you've done it and when you've actually understood the sequence to doing things or starting doing things. So I think generally people definitely like the um, least resistant path to take when looking at things, and the same applies for money because when you're dealing with money as well, people want to do what's easy, what they have done before, and they try to avoid what's complex. And generally, once you try to do anything new, it's always hard. Think about riding a bike. It was very hard initially, but after that, it's one of the easiest things to do.
Why does the financial industry often profit from making wealth building seem more complex than it needs to be? How does this complexity bias work against the average person?
Yeah, so interesting the way you structured that question, and I can see why people think so that people benefit from the complexity. I think the thing there is finance itself, it is complex. Okay, so it's not that the complexity is just created from something simple. The things you do under repetition can make it simple, but overall it is complex. So I think the finance industry doesn't really benefit from it being complex, but the complexity is there in itself. So it definitely makes things feel a little bit complex, and it feels like the finance professionals making it complex. But finance is actually very, very complex. And if I even just zone into when we're investing for clients and the different ways we can go about it, that in itself is complex. Talk about when those portfolios are built and helping people choose the right portfolios. Simplicity can be achieved, but usually comes at even a higher cost to get to that simplicity because there's a basic level of understanding that is needed for things to then become simple, or basic level of experience or exposure.
Mr. Victor, at its heart, it's building wealth more about behavior modification than it's about financial intelligence. Would you say the biggest barrier is lack of knowledge or lack of behavioral discipline?
I think when you talk about building, well, it has to be both, okay? Because some people have the knowledge, but if they don't have the discipline to do it and consistently do it, they won't build wealth. Some people have that consistency and discipline, but they don't have the knowledge. So it has to be a bit of both, okay? Some people are lucky in a situation where they have the habits and they're being able to get good information so they can build wealth, but it isn't one of the other. I think these days the hardest thing to get, or the hardest part of that, is the behavior, because information is very widespread. You can get lots of information from different sources. Okay, so for example, in our business, we put lots of information out in terms of the blogs and resources and all that. So information is not hard to get. I think it's the discipline understanding and consistency. Yeah, so I think you need both to build wealth sustainably and over a long period of time.
On the strategies themselves, let's start with the most powerful yet overlooked strategies: automating savings and investment. Why is paying yourself first so much more effective than saving whatever is left over at the end of the month?
Yeah, very good question. Because what happens is if you don't pay yourself first, and that pay yourself first is in quote, because if you're a business owner, yes, it's literal, but if you're someone working PAYG, it's almost like saving for your future self. So why that's important is if you don't do that first, what will happen is you will find a way to spend what is in your account. While as if you allocate and pay yourself first and put away a certain amount, you will then work within your means. So it's very important for you to understand that even just that small shift can help them save a lot more money than, if they're like, well, I'll just save whatever is left, because generally you might not have as much left, or you might not even have anything left, because one thing with finances and spending, you can always spend. Think about the richest person in the world. They can finish all the money they have because they can spend on a lot. There's a lot out there to spend on.
Mr. Victor, living below your means is a classic advice, but in a culture of social media comparisons and lifestyle inflation, how do you help people reframe this not as a deprivation but empowerment?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I always start off when I talk to people about this is this savings or this paying yourself first is for you, okay? And it's for you to then have more in the future. So it's not for anyone else, it's really for you to have more. So that's one of the things that then they fully understand, okay, well, if I save and I don't get everything I want now, it means I can actually get more later, because that's the power of building wealth. It can build for you in such a way that you get a lot more later on. And the other thing I tell people is ensuring that you understand that you're competing against yourself. Okay, so because there would always be someone wealthier or someone that has a nicer item out there that you may want and you can't have at that point in time. So it's just ensuring that, okay, well, you're competing yourself in a sustainable way. And sustainable means that, well, if you buy everything you want now, you might run out of money and you might have to, sell that or go backwards in the future. While as if you do things in a sustainable way, you can slowly get ahead um, every time and over a long period of time.
Mr. Victor, avoiding high interest debt is cornerstone. Beyond the math, what is the psychological burden that consumer debt plays on an individual that hinders their ability to build wealth?
Yeah, so I'll say one of the huge psychological aspects is even just the headspace. If you have a huge amount of debt, you're thinking about how to pay that debt. You're not really thinking about how to build wealth or how to make money. Okay, and as you would know, our brains or humans can deal with a certain amount of decisions a day, and then they get really fatigued and tired. So if you occupy that space with other things, and one is, well, finding ways to pay down your debt or finding ways to just get to the next paycheck, you don't have the enough ability or mental power to then focus on other things. So focus as well is that huge psychological benefit you get if you don't have high interest debt or if you plan well ahead. And that's one of the parts that are missing, because most of it is really mental on doing the right things that help you get to where you want to go to. And having high interest debt can be it can be very constraining, where you don't have the ability to focus on other things that matter.
For someone living paycheck to paycheck, what is the smallest, most achievable first step they can take to start building a second stream of income?
Yeah, so second stream of income is definitely using any skill they have to get another form of income. Okay, that's an active way to build another stream of income. Okay, the passive ways to build form of income, but if you live in paycheck to paycheck, it's very hard to build a passive way. Okay, so it has to be an active way, and once you have an active way, then you can save and invest, then you can build a passive way. You definitely need your human capital, your business revenue, and all that to get you to a point where you're not living paycheck to paycheck and you're saving something. Then you can start building passive forms of income. And I think with someone living paycheck to paycheck, they should examine their budgets and see if there's anything that can cut down. Okay, because what that means is they're probably spending above their means, and what that means is, well, you can cut down something to help start building some passive income. Okay.
Long term consistent investing in how cost index funds is a winner's game. How do you combat the temptation to try to time the market or chase the least hot stock?
Yeah, so part of that is just being diversified. Diversification is one of the hugest things in finance that lots of people talk about, and it actually solves lots of problems. So being diversified and having a plan as to what you do will definitely help you be disciplined. Like, even we professionals, we still write down what our plan is, because in the heat of the moment you might actually forget and want to chase something, and that is working within certain asset allocations. And I'll give you an example. If we're talking about Australian stocks, and you've decided, okay, well, you're going to put 40% of your money in Australian stocks, and at a point in time you're 40, but then you have another good Australian stock, is like, well, if you're not replacing, you don't want to go past that um, level of investment you've set for yourself. So discipline, diversification, and ensuring that you're jotting down what you're doing to help you make and stick to your decisions long term.
Mr. Victor, tax efficient investing is often seen as an advanced topic. What is one simple basic tax strategy that most everyone is eligible for but fails to use?
So I'll say one of the biggest one is ensuring that you're deferring your taxes. Just a small thing like deferring your taxes can actually be a huge benefit. And what that means is, if you have the option to pay tax now or pay tax in 6 months to a year's time, you always want to choose paying that 6 months to a year's time. Well, not always, most of the time. Okay. Because what that means is, let's assume you owe the tax man $1,000, or you only pay them in a year's time $1,000, you've actually benefited because of inflation is working in your favor. Okay, so you've used that money, unless you even invested that and it gave you a better return, you've actually earned some money on that. So tax deferral, ability to defer taxes for a while, is actually a huge thing that many people underestimate when you're trying to save taxes. And just simple things like ensuring you're claiming all you can, every dollar counts, is a good strategy as well.
Good strategies indeed. And in the age of information overload, how can someone curate a simple, reliable stream of financial education without getting overwhelmed or led astray by, well, influencers?
Yeah, so I think one of that is really understanding who is giving you that information. Okay, so one of the things as well is, and I do this a lot. I think I'm actually very good in understanding who is giving me an information. A physiotherapist shouldn't be giving you advice on your accounting, and your accountant shouldn't be giving you advice on your bad back. Okay, and you can drill down to things like this even with social media. Okay, so it's really important to ensure that, okay, where you're getting that information from, the person has the authority, the rights, the knowledge to actually give you that information, and for you to then know that that source is true. So that's another important thing, because um, there's lots of information out there that isn't true, or doesn't fit a certain purpose. So you need to filter that, and you need to do that yourself. It's very hard for anyone to do that for you, because you need to think about, okay, well, where did I get this information from? Is this the right person to get the information from? And what can I do now that I have the right information and the right person to get information from?
How do you help people shift their mindset from viewing these strategies as restrictive budget to seeing them as a strategic wealth building plan that grants freedom?
Yeah, so all that is ensuring that you're putting some money away consistently. Okay. And you need to do that early on because let's assume you want financial freedom and you want to build a certain amount of portfolio in 10 years' time. You can work backwards. And I'll just throw, say, someone wants $1 million. Okay. And you want that in 10 years' time. Well, all of a sudden, every year you need to be saving at least $100,000, assuming no return. Now, if you're getting a 10% return, you can then maybe afford, and I'll just throw numbers out there. So this is not accurate because I'm not calculating this. You might then afford to say, okay, well, you only need about $60,000 every year. So that is a way that you can build wealth. And part of that in the book as well, in my book called Seven Basic Wealth Strategies, the first chapter talks about knowing what you want and knowing the life you want. So by the time you know that and know that, well, okay, I need $100,000 for me to have a perfect life, then you can walk backwards. And then you would also know that, well, I'm saving X amount. Now you can then come up with the things you should do to get to the life you want. And sometimes that might need drastic changes. Sometimes it doesn't need drastic changes. But having a plan and knowing the future life you want is very important. If not, you're going to be running around like a headless chook and getting nowhere. And going back to your previous question as well, you're going to be chasing all the hot stocks and you're going to be following what other people are doing, which might be right for them, but not right for you.
Mr. Victor, as a money mindset, what are your short term and long term goals?
Myself personally,
Yes.
okay. So look, short-term goals for me are definitely to build the business so we can get into a situation where one, we're helping more people. And the way I view business as well is that I'm actually impacting people's lives by the team members and employees we have because obviously this is the fun, this is a source of living for them. Okay. So I think short-term goal is actually building that long term. A part of that short term goal as well, on the personal side, is just ensuring that family and loved ones are taken care of. I think that's pretty important to me as well. And then other long term goals would be maintaining physical fitness, having a certain amount of passive income, and obviously um, being in a good situation with loved ones and family. So I think it's just the basics, but people have different ideas as to what that looks like. I think I'm fairly certain as to how I want mine to be in the future, short and long term. And most people's goals don't really differ from that. Other people might be in a different life stage where they have their kids becoming teenagers. So it's like, well, sending them off to university or helping them with the first deposit and still around loved ones and helping, providing and caring for them.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Victor. I'm looking forward for more success. And can you give a piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
So I'll say the biggest thing is well, is not to be not to be like me, be like yourself in the first place. But at the same time, it's like, well, look, all these things, because most people have big dreams and ambitions. It does take time, it does take consistency, and don't be too hard on yourself if you fall off the saving, investing bandwagon. Just jump back on, but ensure you have a plan, and that plan suits you and what you want for yourself and your loved ones. And obviously, it's good to do that too together if you have loved ones who are pretty important and close to you in your life.
Mm, thank you for that advice, Mr. Victor. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, so I'll say my book is a good one. Seven Basic Wealth Strategies. I said I wish I picked up that book 10 years ago, and genuinely because there are lots of things there that if I'd read and applied, life would be a lot different. So that's just for people wanting to learn basics about finances. The Diary of the CEO is another one as well. It talks about how you can be in a situation um, where you need to be in the right context to get the most value for what you're offering to people as well. So that's pretty good one. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's another good good book as well that I highly recommend. And I'll say the last one will probably be Grit. So quite a few books that I've read, and I'm an avid reader, so reader, listener, and I think that has helped in lots of ways, and it can help lots of people out there as well.
Thank you so much for that recommended book or books, Mr. Victor. And I'm inviting you to please do come over on my book 101 review and let's talk about your book. I'm gonna invite you this week. And the phrase get rich low is not glamorous. How do you make the concept of delayed gratification compelling in an instant gratification world?
Yeah, so in an instant gratification world, it's like, well, if you constantly wanting instant gratification, there'll be a point where you cannot even satisfy that instant gratification. So part of that is ensuring that, okay, well, you limit that. It doesn't mean you should stop it fully. You limit that and build something sustainable that you can continue to get instant gratification, but also have something for the future as well. And there's nothing wrong with instant gratification. The issue there is when it actually is detrimental to future gratification or delayed gratification.
Definitely. And should this application of these strategies differ for a young professional just starting out or versus someone in their 40s or 50s who is feeling behind?
Yeah, so principles are generally the same, but those are two people with different life stages, and different life stages, different tools you can use to actually get ahead. So most of the strategies we spoke about should still be the same. But for example, a 50-year-old should probably have more instant gratification than a 20-year-old. Okay, and that's because they've spent almost half of their lives already. There's another half, so it's like, well, they should probably be getting on and doing and ticking up all the things they want to do in life. Whereas a 20-year-old might still definitely has a longer room and window to do all those things. So good planning. So it really depends on the person's situation as well.
Good planning indeed. And for entrepreneurs and business owners whose personal and business finances are often intertwined, which of these strategies is non negotiable?
So I think for business owners, I think ensuring the cash flow is taken care of is very important. Okay, and that cash flow has to be distinct from, okay, what is the personal, what is the business cash flow, and once you sort that out, generally you'll be in a very good situation with things.
Mr.
So and
Victor.
that
Yes, go
and
ahead.
sorry, just to jump in, that strategy is the third chapter of the book, which talks about cash flow, and in there we talk about the personal and the business cash flow as well, which is pretty important.
Okay, Mr. Victor, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast law 101 and mental health 101 Love Letters in its third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen to your podcasts. So, Mr. Victor, finally, if you could only one choose of these seven strategies to master first, which would have the greatest ripple effect on a person's entire financial life?
I'll say the third strategy, which is cash flow. Okay, I think that's one of the things many people get wrong. Okay, so if they master cash flow, everything else definitely is a lot easier to do, because cash flow is one of the hardest things for people to actually incorporate.
Mr. Victor Idoko, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or any projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so I definitely encourage listeners to buy the book. In the book, read about the strategies. You can get that on Amazon. It ships to you wherever you are in the world. It's called Seven Basic Wealth Strategies, and it's by Victor Idoko. And you can follow me on social media as well. Instagram handle is I am Victor Idoko.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Victor Idoko because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Victor, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.